Hello YouTube. I wanted to give this tutorial on Oracle because he is one of my favorite heroes on Dota 2, and while he is a lot of fun, he is rather complex to learn. I myself learned how to play him initially by watching a YouTube tutorial, and I wanted to pay it forward with my take. I am a level 30 Grandmaster Oracle player, and I wanted to go through initially just his 4 core abilities. His first one that you're going to want to get is called Fortune's End. It is a channeled spell that will track to whatever target you cast it on, which is important, and it's going to come into play here later in the video. It is a root as well as a basic dispel. The root duration, even if you cast it for just a moment, will root for a half second, and it will channel up to 2.5 seconds. The basic dispel on this ability is important because it combos with your second main ability called Purifying Flames. Purifying Flames is initially a damage dealing nuke, and then afterwards it will apply a heal. When casting it on an enemy, you want to use your Fortune's End ability first, which will then target that hero, and you will have the traveling dispel animation that you can see, and you want to interrupt that Fortune's End with your Purifying Flames. This Purifying Flames is an instant spell, so it will apply the damaging nuke to your enemy while the travel time of the Fortune's End happens, and then it will dispel off that heal. When you're doing your Fate's Edict, it will also combo with your Purifying Flames, because Fate's Edict is a double-edged sword. It will be an ability that disarms an enemy or an ally, and it will negate all magic damage on that enemy or ally. So when you are wanting to heal your allies, you cast Fate's Edict on them so they do not take that initial nuke damage and they only receive the heals. However, if you are attacking an enemy, say a Slark pounced on you, you would want to cast Fate's Edict on him, and then he's disarmed and he cannot hit you. However, if any of your spells or any of your ally spells were cast on him when that Fate's Edict is on him, he will be disarmed but also take 0 magic damage. You can cast Fate's Edict on an ally, then cast Purifying Flames on them to heal them, and then you can cast Fortune's End on your ally as well to dispel that disarm from Fate's Edict. The fourth main ability of Oracle is his ultimate called False Promise. This is a strong dispel, which will be important because it'll take off any of the negative status effects on your allies that you are trying to save. It will stop all damage that they take for 7, 8.5, or up to 10 seconds. And then while that is in play, essentially a math equation is happening. It will take all of the damage that they are receiving, and then it will double all of the heals that they are receiving. And after that math equation is done, if the number is positive, they will survive. So ideally, you're going to want to cast False Promise on your allies or yourself. Then you are going to want to do Fate's Edict to negate any of that magic damage, and then you are going to want to heal them. A clue about using False Promise is that there will be a little orb above your head. If that orb stays silver, your ally will be totally fine and they're not going to die. However, if it starts to get to be a burning sun, it's an iffy situation about whether they survive, and if it turns into a blazing orange inferno, your ally is definitely going to die. Those are Oracle's 4 core abilities. He does have an Aghanim Scepter ability, which is new in patch 7.31b, and it's called Reign of Destiny. It's a 650 AoE spell, and it will do 50 damage a second to enemies and heal for 50 health points a second for allies, as well as amplifying your heals. Lastly, its shard upgrade is called False Promise, and it makes it so that your False Promise makes your allies invisible so that they will receive significantly less damage because they cannot be seen, and you will be able to heal them better. Those are Oracle's main abilities, and I'm going to break down those throughout the gameplay and see how I'm using them and when I'm using them. The first thing that I wanted to share was, as I'm playing Oracle and skilling up Fortune's End and Purifying Flames, I don't like to do a lot of casting and harassing of the enemy until I can get Purifying Flames at level 2. Because of level 2, the damage will double, and it just makes it so much more mana efficient. So now that I pulled the camp here to help out my axe here, but it's also going to give me that experience to get Purifying Flames to level 2. What I wanted to model here is the fact that Slark's going to try to get away. We're going to try to pick him off, but just exactly how my two abilities are working together of seeing Fortune's End, seeing me nuke him, and you'll see the heal on him, and then how it's going to dispel. And I slowed it down so that you could see the actual travel time of Fortune's End. So channeling, you can see that he is healing for that 22 health a second, and you can see that pink stream of Fortune's End channeling and going to dispel off that heal in just a moment. It hit him. We can see that the it purged it, and he was rooted. Now I didn't channel it for very long, so he's only rooted for that half second. But that is how the two abilities are going to combo. Again, so that you can initially cast your Fortune's End, then you interrupt that cast with your nuke so that they take the damage. But if they're an enemy, you want to dispel that off. So that is why you interrupt the cast. Something interesting to note about your Fortune's End is that when you start casting it, your enemies have immediate vision of you. This can be seen when Axe goes in on Slark and Nature's Prophet, and they don't see me. But once I start casting, they can both see and are, they're both rooted actually because they're standing next to each other. But they looked a lot like they were going to go after Axe until they saw me channeling that. So you can see here, Clark was ready to commit. He backed off because I had targeted him, and they are both rooted.
Faith in fate restored.
Something I wanted to share next was probably one of my hardest lessons to learn while playing Oracle, and that is to not kill steal from your carry. You are a support, but with great power comes great responsibility. So here you can see that we almost get the kill on Slark. While my nuke is available, I do not use it. I could have tried to steal it there. I could have taken it from Axe and I could have just said, hey, I want the gold. I have items to buy too. But it's not until I really see that Axe is not able to get that kill that then I'm going to step in and I'm going to do the Purifying Flames and I'm going to get that kill.
I want to die.
This is a second example of me really trying to just bring home that point that it is so hard to not try and kill steal from your carries. You could see that my Purifying Flames was up and Nature's Prophet was really low. I'm waiting until I can see that Axe is not going to get here in time, or he's really pretty much just putting himself into danger, even though Axe can tower dive. He was way over on the other side of the tower. Creeps were giving me vision of Nature's Prophet. I didn't want him to get away, so here I am again channeling that Fortune's End just in case it's not enough to kill him with the Purifying Flames. It'll do the damage plus that dispel. And we're going to see here that Axe is going to get treed here anyway, so he couldn't have gotten it. But again, that importance of not kill stealing from your carry. The next point I wanted to discuss was really how to use your Fortune's End depending on the enemy comp that you're playing with. I think this is a really great example with having Venomancer and Silencer, just because they have so many status debuffs. You're going to see here that I'm looking at Luna and she's got Venomous Gale, she's got Poison Sting, and so I am going to run in. I'm going to target her immediately. She's also has Arcane Curse and Last Word, and I am going to use my Fortune's End, and she got rid of all those negative status debuffs that she had on her. The next thing worth pointing out is in this next engage, how I'm using my abilities. So right now we just got Venomancer ult, which we cannot dispel that. So I'm going to try and heal up Luna because she's my carry. And I'm going to initially just nuke and Purifying Flames without using Fate's Edict. You can see that she's going to take damage. I had leveled up so I can learn Fate's Edict the second time. You can see that she is now able to heal. However, she is disarmed and she cannot attack ever. So that first one, you could see that the attack damage, she took it from the nuke. And then the second time, she will not take it because of the Fate's Edict there. So disarmed and no damage is taken, but she is healing for, well, 2 stacks of 44. So she's healing for 88 HP every second. We all still have Poison Nova. So you're going to see me here use my ultimate, which stops all damage. Initially, I am able to heal myself. You could see that blazing sun above my head, which means it was close. I might not have survived. I drop my Fate's Edict on myself, and then I Purifying Flames again. And I am able to continuously stack this, and I'm basically back up at full health. Luna's at full health, and we are all able to push this tower, which is incredibly powerful because Venomancer died, Ember had to leave, and we're all still here able to go because of Oracle playing as support with his abilities.
I am shocked.
In this next part, I wanted to break down a couple things that you just have to start to build into quick reaction time. You saw Ember jump in here. The first thing I did was Fate's Edict. Next thing I did was heal myself. Then we all got Global Silence, so I was not able to help out Axe there. The next thing that I'm doing is I'm always watching my positioning, trying to stay in the back, trying to watch for my hard carry here. Just had Last Word on him as well from Silencer, so I am going to use the False Promise on Luna here. You're going to be able to see this globe part above her head and see that I'll know that I don't need to try to disarm her. I don't need to really heal through initially because I see that she's going to be fine with that little tracking guard above her head. That really shows that she's really not taking enough damage and that she'll be fine. After this, this little engage here, I'm having to evaluate when do I want to disarm and heal Luna, because this ancient camp is stacked. She clearly wants to stay here and get it. So knowing when to disarm her versus when to just heal her, meaning when to use the Fate's Edict and combo it with Purifying Flames versus when to just use it Purifying Flames. You can see here I've finally got my Aether Lens and I'm finishing my Arcane Boots. I'm watching her health, just seeing that, hey, okay, creeps have gone away. Now is a good time to disarm. Now I can actually heal, and it's not going to wreck her. Otherwise, your carry is going to get pretty grumpy with you if you constantly keep disarming them when trying to actually farm camp.
That was odd indeed.
Something else that takes some practice getting used to is realizing when you should cast and when you shouldn't. So here, I'm only casting just to get rid of the poison on myself. Slark is going to attack me, and what I know about Slark is that he's a melee attacker. Thinking about that in terms of my spells, that Fortune's End, remember it has that basic dispel, and it needs that travel time to cast across the map however far away as you're interrupting your Purifying Flames. So your Purifying Flames needs to hit for that damage before the basic dispel hits. However, when you have an enemy like Slark that's in melee range, that dispel will actually hit before the damage is done, which means they will ultimately heal afterwards. So evaluating how low is that Slark? Is he going to die between my Purifying Flames and my Fortune's End combo? In this fight, I'm trying to heal myself up. I'm using the Dispel on Skywrath to help him try to get away. He ends up not doing it. I'm personally healing up because of that Fate's Edict and that Purifying Flames. So the Venomancer thinks that he can come in on me, but I'm still low health. This again comes back to that same situation with Slark a moment ago, of seeing that this Venomancer, he's going to get real close. He's going to try to ult me. It's going to end up being a draw. But within melee range here, what you could see is I had to wait for that Dispel, and I had to think about the Purifying Flames, and I had to think about that distance there of, am I going to end up healing them, or is that Dispel going to come into play first?
Even you should have seen that coming. But you didn't.
Another reason why Oracle was a really ideal pick during this match was because of Husker. I want to pause and show you the moment that Husker gets pure false promised. He's sitting at 977 health points. Husker has his level 4 Berserker's Blood, and with that comes this massive regen bonus. So thinking about that along with False Promise, remembering that it doubles any of the heals that he takes, whether that is lifesteal from his weapons, lifesteal from a passive, or a talent, whether it's just an ability, whether it's a potion, whether it's anything, all of those heals are going to get doubled. So when you have an ability like False Promise and you put it on a Husker, it's going to be amazing. Granted, I have my shard, so he is going invisible. So he's taking less damage that way. The only thing that I'm going to do to him is I'm going to give him False Promise and then Fate's Edict once, and I'm going to give him one Purifying Flames heal, which is only 44 health per second. He's going to come out full health. That is a really amazing combo, so that if you ever see someone pick a Husker, Oracle, if you feel confident, is almost always an amazing teammate.
You will die in a house fire.
I talked earlier about how Fortune's End is a channeled and targeted spell. And one thing that I want to point out is I start channeling on this Ember Spirit, and I do it for the max duration, but you can see that this is going to track with him and follow him all the way up and land on him up here. Now, that's really important because you can use it on enemies, but you can also use it on your allies. So remember that I have a Husker on my team. He has his ultimate, which is Life Break, and that will leap in against an enemy. So if I were to use that same ability, if I were to use Fortune's End and cast it on Husker before he uses his Life Break, and I do that max channel, it will go in and he'll break them for half their health, and then they will be rooted there for 2.5 seconds, as well as getting dispelled. So using this Fortune's End, that idea that it tracks to an enemy and it tracks to an ally, you can really use that to your advantage.
surprise.
I wanted to point out a major misplay that I did this game, and that is using my ult on myself rather than on the carry here. So we're in kind of an end game situation here. It's 44 minutes. We get global silence from Silencer. That's fine. That's to be expected. But the silence ends now. Luna is BKB, which means my ult is going to be a little bit less effective on her. I still could have used it on Axe, but I use it on myself. And you're going to see how this plays out, that I could have saved the Luna, could have saved her there, could have saved the Axe here. And they're going to come in, they're going to drop him, he's going to end up dying. I do use Fate's Edict, and I do try to heal him up. Something worth noting is at this point in the game, I do have my Aghanims. So this big AoE that you're seeing here is that Reign of Destiny. It's amplifying heals. So you will see that the heals on Axe are not 44 per second, but they're 55 per second. On me, they're a little bit higher here as well. So that's just one major misplay that I did in terms of not ulting my carries, but using the ult on myself. I want to also point out something that this is usually the build that I go. I usually go 12 intelligence, just because you use so much mana as Oracle. I will almost exclusively go minus 1.25 second Purifying Flame cooldown, because that combined with Octarine Core, you can see that Purifying Flames used to be a 2.5 second cooldown, and now it is 0.9 seconds. So that is an incredibly short cooldown for spamming your heals and for spamming your damage abilities as well, because you can get off several Purifying Flames, and yes, it's going to tick and heal on the enemy for a little bit. So you go Purifying Flame, and then you would cast the Dispel of Fortune's End, and they're taking so much damage, 360 twice plus 280 in the span of 3 seconds. It's an incredible nuke. More to the point, I always go minus 20 seconds false promise cooldown, just because your ult is so important. I traditionally will go at level 25 1.5 second false promise duration, just because it adds to that the power of your ultimate. However, this build I did a little bit different this time, and I'm going to show you how and why I rationalized it that way. So here I'm going to do a max channel of the Fortune's End on Ember Spirit. And because he's so mobile, so he is rooted for the full 2.5 seconds there. I literally just dinged 25, and I'm thinking, okay, super mobile team. We have a Slark, we have a Nature's Prophet, we have an Ember Spirit. This game, I want that instant Fortune's End. So you'll see here, now that I have it, and I cast it, it went instantaneously. It did not have to sit there and channel it for that max 2.5 seconds. Something important to note though, once you get that instant Fortune's End, you need to be ready to Purifying Flames instantaneously, because up to this point, you've been sitting there, you could channel it for the 2.5 seconds, and you have all the time in the world before you can interact with that Purifying Flames. Once you get that instant Fortune's End though, it's going to go immediately. That Dispel is going to be traveling, and you need to be within range, and you need to be ready to nuke, so that the Dispel gets there after your nuke does. So that's one of the only reasons why I would go that instant Fortune's End, and we are able to get the Ember kill. The game here is wrapping up. A couple more things I just wanted to show. As the support, I am definitely still trying to be low on the net worth here, although I did go 11, 8, and 21, which is pretty good. This last engage that you are going to see here, Luna's going to use her BKB here in a moment, and just trying to stay back out of the fight here, let them go after my carries. So because of Luna using the BKB, I didn't use my ult on her. However, you're going to see here that I am going to use my false promise on her. I'm less worried about Husker with his passive. So we can look here and see all of the debuffs that Luna has on her. I'm going to cast my false promise. You're going to see some of them drop off. They dropped down to just 2, and now they're hitting her again, so that's stacking again. But you can see here how quickly it goes from I'm okay. You can see that little silvery orb means she's totally fine. Fortunately, we get global silenced, and if we back it up just a smidge, we would see that she was at about 50 health when that ultimate fell off. And so that's just, it goes to show how quickly your ultimate can lie to you. And it is aptly named False Promise, in that they look like they're okay, and then they're not. But we ended up with a radiant victory. I did end up getting MVP that game. Because I'm level 30, I don't get to get any more experience. Have a little bit of a guild rewards there. I love this part of just seeing how your relics are progressing. It just goes to show how many different areas that Oracle can be impactful in a game. Looking at the breakdown, it was a pretty close game, 54 to 40. They definitely made a comeback mid-game there. Looking at the scoreboard, always trying to reflect on what I'm doing there. Net worth is where it should be as a position 4, in my opinion. And then one thing that I definitely could have improved on was the number of camps that I was stacking. I did a terrible job stacking camps for my carries this time. Good job with wards. And then if you're curious about the order that I always level up my skills, then there's a breakdown for you, seeing when I chose each of my talents. But I hope that you enjoyed this Oracle game, and I hope that you learned something new, whether you're an experienced player or whether you are new to him. And if you are new to him, I would definitely encourage you to give him a try. He's a strong, amazing support. This did end up being a ranked game that I was playing in, and so definitely playing within that position 4, position 5. But I do like to dabble with Oracle as position 2 mid. And if you like that idea, I have a video there that you can watch next.